everyone, welcome back to Instagram for Wednesday.
That's right, it's Wednesday, and do the Switch sound every time I hump, okay?
Yep.
Turns out all those rumors about a mini Switch were true. A smaller, handheld-only version of the Switch releasing in just a few months.
Just like we predicted, Lawrence, all right?
Hey! Instant Gaming does it again!
Get used to that, because I'm gonna be smug as hell this entire episode.
I guess being wrong about GTA really humbled us.
Whatever, we didn't make those up. Whatever, it was a rumor. We said as much.
We did say it was a rumor.
Yeah, anyway. So Nintendo broke the news officially today, releasing a video showing off the Switch. Wait for it, Lite.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of attractive people going to beautiful outdoor locations and then whipping out their mini Switches and playing video games, just like you would always do.
Hey, bro, let's go skateboarding and play Switch.
I like their little the Roman forearm clap before they start playing Mario. Boing, boing.
I just want to cut to the other kid who's skateboarding and be like,
why are they
dude,
not skateboarding?
you're at a skateboard. As for the Switch Lite itself, it looks a lot like that leaked image that made the rounds a few months ago. See, sometimes leakers are correct.
Wow.
Not defensive at all.
Okay, all right, geez. So the rest of the big news is that it's releasing September 20th, and it'll cost 200 buckaroos. We're gonna brag a little here. This is almost exactly what we predicted in a video 2 months ago, right, Lawrence?
We did
GTA, la 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 la.
I said we'd do it for the rest of the episode, but I think we're done now.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
It's time to talk about features, because we're done bragging for a minute. It's similar to its older brother, obviously. The Switch Lite does have some significant changes that are worth noting. The biggest change is that the Joy-Cons are attached in the new version, and the Switch Lite does not connect with your TV. It's handheld only. They've also swapped out the directional buttons on the left side for control pad. Just gonna say you can do if you buy an aftermarket case for your Joy-Con from China and some tools to crack it open and swap out all the parts into a new case. You can do that. It's not that hard.
I mean,
it's actually really hard.
Who hasn't done that?
There's a lot of ribbon cables in those. Let me tell you. Jesus. Swear. Anyway. And some features like the AR camera and HD rumble have been removed.
No!
I know, shocking.
Oh my god.
Was it really called high definition rumble?
Yes, and actually it came to me when I was in the shower why they did that. It's actually brilliant marketing. So rumble motors, and this is, sorry, it gets struck from the entire episode, but rumble motors, it is seriously a weight that's offset from a motor. So it like spins and then it wobbles. Joy-Cons are tiny, so the motor has to be smaller and the weight has to be smaller, which means it doesn't rumble as hard. But since it's smaller, it accelerates and decelerates faster, meaning that there's not as much spool up or wind down, meaning that you get less rumble, but much more precise rumble.
Oh, okay.
So Nintendo was like, we call it HD rumble.
That was the hot buzzword in like 2006, though, when they were selling like HD glasses and kids.
They could have called it AccuRumble.
They could have. You're right.
Since there are no Joy-Cons, you'll need a separate pair. If you're going to be playing motion control games like 1-2 Switch and ARMS, which we all do.
I play that every day, all the time.
Bruce and I go skateboarding, we're like, we should play ARMS.
Let's play one ARMS, here we go.
Rooftop party, let's play games.
And don't forget Labo, that won't work either. That's not gonna work either with the Switch Lite. But the vast majority of games won't be affected.
The screen is also smaller as well. It's 5.5 inches with a resolution of 720p. That's a little smaller than the 6.2 inches screen that regular Switch has, but not by much, which I already thought already had a pretty small screen. Yeah. It's not huge.
It should be a little smaller.
I got big old man hands.
Other than that, the button layout is pretty identical to the regular Switch. There's still a headphone jack, but no Bluetooth headset support.
And that keeps it cheap, right?
Well, that's the idea. They're knocking so many parts out of this thing to make the profit margin pretty ridiculous. You wanna know exactly how much? Check out our video from 2 months ago. Yeah, they were gonna make a load of money off this because Nintendo's really smart about packing hardware and saving money and those Chinese factories. And Trump's trying his best to make sure that doesn't happen, and that's also getting done.
CNET spent some time with it, right, Lawrence?
They have some interesting takes on it. Most of the internal Switch features are the same. Got 32 gigabytes of internal storage along with a micro SD card slot. Line button layout is the same. There's a USB-C port for charging. Thank you, Nintendo.
I know, it's great.
It's the one thing they were ahead of the curve on.
Yeah,
but that's the weird thing though, is that USB-C also allows for video out. So if you have a C to HDMI adapter, could you still potentially maybe?
No, in the dock.
Because there's, the dock, like people have tried and there's some black magic with how Nintendo's doing it.
It's so crazy.
It's doing power in and video out at the same time because it overclocks the CPU when it's docked. And Nintendo hasn't released that spec, and anyone that's tried to reverse engineer it ends up frying a Switch or it doesn't work half the time. So it's very
crazy.
strange. But speaking of charging, CNET also reported the Switch Lite should have a better battery life than the original Switch, between 20 and 30% depending on the game, which could mean it has a higher capacity battery or re-engineered parts. Maybe the actual hardware, the board, has better parts that consume less battery, or it just has fewer accessories to run. Doesn't have to run wireless, doesn't have to run rumble.
Could be all of those things.
Yeah, maybe all of them combined.
CNET also said that the Switch Lite has a more efficient processor, and the heating ports on top of the system are smaller than the original Switch.
The body itself is matte plastic, and CNET's reviewer said it felt lighter and slimmer and more compact than the original Switch. As for its length, they said it's about as long as a Switch if you took one of its Joy-Cons out. So like if you took, I guess
Yeah,
one half.
Gotcha, yeah. I was like, what psychopath did that? So what if you buy this as a second Switch for your house? Will you transfer games between two systems? There's some sort of cloud, Lawrence? What's going on?
There's absolutely not a cloud. Let's not get crazy about that. But President Doug Bowser said you can transfer games. You have the ability to transfer between devices. Your gameplay experiences, more to come on there, but that is the intention. So maybe he is hinting at cloud support. It's not there yet, but they have until September to add it, and they've acknowledged that they're working on it. So yeah, maybe we're finally getting a Nintendo Switch that's entering the year 2016. 2013. How exciting.
Cloud save. When did Steam put those in?
2009?
Switch Lite will come in 3 colors, gray, yellow, and turquoise. And it's releasing on the same day that the remake of Zelda Link's Awakening launched.
There will also be a limited edition Pokemon themed design that will launch with Pokemon Sword and Shield later this year. Duh.
Yeah, just like the doorstop 2DS released along with Pokemon X and Y in October 2013. Wow, it's like Nintendo's doing the same thing over and over.
Because it
yeah.
worked last time, yeah.
That actually helped Nintendo spike sales of its 3DS family of systems overall. 2013 was the biggest year ever for the 3DS systems, with nearly 14 million sold that year.
Is it a good bet that might happen for the Switch, Lawrence?
I mean, yes. It's weird in how quirky and original they are, but they also keep doing the same thing over and over.
because it's working.
Yeah, exactly. So, it seems like the goal here is to push out a cheaper model of the Switch around the same time Pokemon Sword and Shield release, because as much as Pokemon is the world's game, it also tends to, capture the children's. And if you're a parent who just wants your kid to shut up because they're yelling about Pokemon, you buy them a cheap Switch, one that has fewer parts that can be broken or lost. Give them that and tell them to go away for a minute so you can make love to your wife for the first time in 10 years.
Or drink wine and watch your stories.
Well, that's just as good as making love when you're 45. Say what you will about Pokemon, as kind of we said before, it's still massively popular. Some of those fans might have been waiting until it comes out to buy a Switch.
Oh, really?
Maybe. Wow. Animal Crossing, also kind of in that vein, I think. There's some...
Are you waiting for that?
But you could get another one. You can trade Pokemon with yourself. Think about that.
There might be another subsection of people who maybe aren't waiting, but they just need to be reminded. Holiday season rolls around, they go, hey look, the Switch is $100 cheaper, and it comes with Pokemon. They go, huh? Oh yeah,
Alright.
cool.
Or you're like me and you took your Switch apart like 8 times and you broke the fan off and there's a
Nobody's
scratch
like,
on the screen.
Go ahead and say you're in the minority.
Nobody likes you.
I don't think
I'm sorry,
I am.
nobody's like you.
I've never once called you a minority, but you are now a minority.
$200 is a pretty cheap entry point into the current generation of consoles, even though the Switch is obviously less powerful than a PS4, an Xbox One,
But how
or an Xbox One X, or an Xbox One S.
But how portable are those? You gotta get a backpack and a battery? I'm sure you've tried.
Are
Yeah.
you kidding? I can carry that right underneath my arm, walk around no problem.
But how do you get it? You gotta get that back mount for the monitor, and then it starts hurting your lower back after a while. And all that hot air's blasting off and hitting the guy next to you on the subway.
Switches are too casual, I get what you're saying, yeah. But at this point, the Switch has built up a decent library of first-party games, as well as ports of older games that release on PC or other consoles. And we're even starting to see some games like Doom Eternal release as multi-platforms for the Switch, as well as PS4 and Xbox One, which is really cool.
Mortal Kombat 11? I played that in the back of a bike cab in Austin.
Wow.
Portability.
Oh, man.
I was basically in a Nintendo Switch advert. It was awesome.
I did that hungover and almost threw up in the pedicab.
Awesome.
Man, I was like, I'll give this thing a try. No. Like, select your fighter.
So for a handheld, this is all pretty impressive. And since this one is cheaper, maybe parents will be more likely to buy this for their kid. I mean, yes, of course. They're definitely gonna buy it for their kid.
Of course, we've been hearing reports about a mini Switch for a while now. Back in April, the Japanese publication Nikkei says that the smaller budget Switch would hit stores this fall. Others like Bloomberg also reported something similar, that a smaller Switch would release later this year.
Lawrence, why this year?
Part of it is just time. Nintendo does this every couple of years. They release a new hardware iteration to kind of refresh sales and stuff. But it's also been reported that Nintendo is worried about a sales slump, which is why they're furiously working on these new models, also hitting with their big games this year in particular. Animal Crossing, I almost said Assassin's Creed. Animal Crossing and Pokemon in particular. According to translations from Western outlets, Nintendo reportedly sees the Switch Junior as a successor to the 3DS. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
At the time, though, Nikkei reported that you would be able to connect it to your TV, which obviously didn't turn out to be true, which kind of makes sense. They'd have to release another smaller dock. And then they're starting to pile on costs onto something that's intended to be a low-cost, high-profit margin sort of product. But yeah, Nintendo does need to goose sales a little bit. They've sold almost 35 million Switches as of the end of March. That's just about where the PlayStation 4 was at the same point in its lifespan, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Because PlayStation 4 is on track to be the top-selling console of all time. They're kind of neck and neck at this point, which is exciting. It's weird to have Nintendo back in the arms race again.
But even with all that positivity, investors have been pummeling Nintendo stock because it hasn't been selling quite as well as they hoped. Disappointed father syndrome. JPEG.
Last year, the Switch was selling like gangbusters, and Nintendo executives made a very aggressive prediction that the Switch would sell 20 million units in the fiscal year that just wrapped up at the end of last month.
And that didn't happen.
Oh.
Yeah, that was eventually revised down to 17 million, which is about how many Switches sold.
But Wall Street was expecting 17.5 million sold, so that's part of why the stock took a hit. They missed it by 500,000 or something. Come on.
This is the part of the business that I know the least about. Why the stock market and investors and analysts are so touchy. And I get it, it's money. And it's a lot of money. And when your reputation of relying on the guidance you're giving your investors and then you're off because you got bad information, I get you might be a little sour about that. But yeah, that's what makes this year confusing. Nintendo says they expect to ship 18 million Switches the current fiscal, which I get seems really low now that we're looking at 2 models and 2 big hitter games. But that's also less than analysts are expecting. They're saying 18.5 million.
I get it. They want the 8-person hot tub instead of the 7. Sure.
But if they got mad that Nintendo didn't hit their expectations last year, why are they setting expectations again that are also just a little bit higher than what Nintendo said?
Well, because they have to goose those stocks up a little bit, right? And analysts, they have to fill a quota too.
Yes, you're right.
They have to get clicks too.
Bruce, you're really You're really revolutionizing my view on this.
Since March, Nintendo's stock price has been steadily creeping back upward. Not around the time when I bought it, just so you guys know. I bought it kind of like a few months ago. But I was like, hey, you know what? It's gonna be a great year for Nintendo. Please, Nintendo.
Now we're coming around to the investment corner of Inside Gaming, where we give you solid investing advice.
This calculator.
Don't buy when
stock?
Bruce buys.
So the last time we checked today, this morning, Nintendo's stock price is up more than 2.5%, so it seems like investors are at least somewhat pleased with this announcement.
I know, I was pleased.
Yeah.
Because they announced something that's not just software. Everyone's like talking about it, like, oh my god, even though it is something that is less than what already exists, has less features, and is cheaper, but it still costs $200 more than a thing I already have.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's
You
true.
know what I mean? I already own it. It's there. I have it. It does everything that this thing
have
does.
another?
Why would I buy another one?
It's in turquoise.
Oh, I gotta buy this.
I'm gonna go on record and say, right now, analysts predicted 18.5 million for the fiscal year of 2019. 20 million! I'm going 20 million. Here we go, baby, all the way to the top.
That's bullshit. I'm gonna say 22.
22 million!
22 million!
Do I hear 24?
I want to buy a Sega Nomad. Remember? Remember, guys?
No.
Deeper and good news, everybody. This brings us to the most exciting part of the video, the part where we talk about math and economics. So here we go. This is you guys are gonna learn something today, I promise. When the Switch launched in 2017, the estimated manufacturing cost of each Switch was around $257. As former Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima said,